Welcome to the Backpacking Bushers podcast, brought to you by Enlightened Equipment, the best quilt makers for ultralight and weaker hikers like Ben. Check them out at enlightenedequipment.com. With me today is Ben McAuliffe. How are you doing today, my friend?
Doing good. So I got a question for you because we're sitting around the dinner table with my kids. And what is the biggest toy you had as a kid? Like the most iconic toy that would define your childhood era? Because I think of it now, like for us, it's video games. Like our kids are all like, oh, it's video games. But for us, we had toys. So what would be one of your toys?
I mean, and they still have, like, the kids have toys too, for sure, right? They have like
Yeah.
action figures and stuff. But my biggest, the like physically biggest one, but also the most iconic one I got for Christmas one year. And it was like Voltron, like at each of the individual lions, you put it together into this massive statue of Voltron. And but they gave it to me, like, I think it was two or three nights before Christmas, because we were going out to my uncle's house in Michigan. And so they're like, here is the most iconic toy of all time. Great. Go to bed, put it away. We're flying out tomorrow. You can't play with it for like 2 weeks. So that was mine.
We do that to my son a lot.
What was yours?
Mine was probably G.I. Joes. Like we grew up in that era. G.I. Joes, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle action figures. And then I had a My Pet Monster, which I don't know if people even remember that, but those were my most iconic ones. Yeah.
All right. So how does this relate to Hiking Rev, or like tips for newer, weaker, old scare hikers? How does this all relate? What's going on here?
Well, it made me feel old because I'm talking to the kids and like, hey, you guys, and they're like, my son has Legos, and my other son has like, the basketball hoop behind the door, but they don't have like, in my opinion, they don't have like the iconic toys anymore that we did.
Gotcha.
So
okay. No Teddy Rex.
No, it just made me feel old. Yeah. Right.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, in talking about just these different types of hikers that we're trying to have tips for, we're going to be leaning on a guy known as Hiking Rev here in a couple minutes. But I just realized, like, a lot of these are trying to put to rest some fears. So what's your biggest outdoor fear?
Probably being lost and then having it spiral out of control. So like, rather than like stopping and thinking, like, panic, and then just start like doing something like you shouldn't do, like running in a direction that you think's good, and then you get more lost and it just gets worse. And next thing you know, I'm 10 years living in the woods.
This sounds like you're recounting like an actual nightmare that you've had. Am I off base here?
No.
Okay,
I haven't had that
hilarious.
one, but yeah.
Mine's similar. Mine's more like not like lost. Mine's just going for miles in the wrong direction. Miles.
Yeah.
So I've had that happen before. Like back when I used to do adventure races, we did this multi-day race, and we had this guy who he'd just come off a race, and he did such a good job navigating. So he was the guy with the map, and you typically only have one map guy. And we were on a mountain biking section, and we're on this dirt road, and we come to a bridge, and under the bridge, there's like other teams there. It looks like there's people checking things off. It just looks like a checkpoint. I was like, there we go. It's right there. He's like, incorrect, buddy. It's up this mountain. I was like, really? Because everybody's going there, and there's like race officials standing there. And I was pretty young, so I didn't have the guts to kind of just naysay him. So we went 5 miles up this mountain before we realized that was the right way to go. And
oh my gosh.
At that point, I just took the map away from him. Like, you're not getting this back. So
you lost your privileges.
You lost your privileges.
There you have
anyway,
it,
so we'll see what Hiking Rev has to say about stuff like that. But Bible verse of the episode, Proverbs 16:31, gray hair is a crown of glory. It is gained in a righteous life. So, Ben, are you going to eventually grow your hair back out so you have a crown of glory?
I like to think my crown of glory is in heaven and not here. I got the gray hair on the beard. Does that just mean like, I don't know? I guess I don't have it on this life. But what about you? Are you going to grow yours out? Yeah.
Yeah, mine hasn't turned gray yet, so I can't do that.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe I'll have to do a mullet. I think that's the only thing I can grow.
Okay. Well, I'll take it. Take what you can get. Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of gray hair, we've got somebody who is a veteran hiker. At age 68, he hiked the entire Pacific Crest Trail. He's done other thru hikes since then, and he's now about to turn age 72, and he's about to do the Appalachian Trail. Man known as Hiking Rev right now. With us today is a man known by Jerry Michael Callahan, otherwise known as the Hiking Rev. How's it going today, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Doing
Excellent.
good.
Happy to have you. Happy to have you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. So, Rev, what is the weirdest thing you saw on the trail? Let's just get that out there.
Which trail? Just all the ones that I've been on?
Any like one that just
Ben's still working
out.
on how to ask a question. Yeah, he's been on lots of trails. He's been on trails like every day.
What is named a trail? But yeah.
Okay. PCT towards the very end. And what's really weird, it's not an animal, it's a human. Talking about the weirdest thing.
Okay, so what weird human?
Okay. I was at where was I at? Stevens Pass. I was at Stevens Pass, and I was trying to get a hotel, and so I was calling on the phone, and a guy walked up and he started jiggling the doors. And of course, 2020, there's nobody there, it's just me and him.
Yeah.
So he's jiggling the doors trying to get in, and so I'm waiting. So as soon as I got, my motel room, I hung up the phone and I said, "Hey, dude, there's nobody here, He says, "Oh man," he says, I wanted to get my I wanted to get my paycheck." And I said, "Well, there's nobody here, I don't have your paycheck." And so anyway, I'm thinking to myself, now I've got to get to Leavenworth, which is a pretty good drive away from Stevens Pass. And so I thought, hey, I'll just get this guy to take me, So I asked him, I said, "Where are you going?" And he was going past Leavenworth. And so I said, could I get a drive? Could I get a hitch just to Leavenworth? You can drop me off at my motel. You can go on. He said, "Sure." So we're walking to his car, and we get in the car, and he drives off, and I'm talking to him, and he's not responding.
Oh no.
Yeah. Oh no. And so I'm going, okay, maybe I'm not talking loud enough, whatever. And so I asked him another question, no response. And then
wait, what kind of question are you asking him where he's not responding? Like so where are you from? Where are you from?
Where are you from?
And nowhere, he's just sitting there.
Nothing, just sitting there driving. And I went, okay, something ain't right here. And so
the doors just automatically lock on them.
That's right. That's right.
They were locked, okay. But then he turns to me and he looks at me and he goes, "Sometimes I hear voices."
Uh-oh.
Then I really started freaking out. I started going for the door at that time.
Oh, yeah.
He said, I don't know. And I don't know, what his problem was. I'm sure it was some kind of psychological problem, but man, here he is going, 70 miles an hour down the freeway, and I'm wanting to jump out,
Yeah, for sure.
But anyway, I'm trying to engage him. I'm thinking, is he going to slam into a car, or are we going to go off a cliff or whatever? But finally we get to the motel room, and he kept asking. He says, "How much further? How much further?" And so I told him, I said, "Well, I think it's just right around the corner, And so finally we get there. I've never been so glad to get out of a car in all my life. That was the weirdest experience I think I ever had.
Wow.
Okay. We're going to talk more about hitchhiking because you put out a video about it that I got a question about later on. Yeah. But that's interesting that you had that experience and then put out a video after that about how to go hitchhiking. you think that might be your last one? Just saying.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. No, so you're known as the Hiking Rev. Can you tell us about your trail name? How did you get it? What does that mean? What's it all about?
Well, I was in the Lake Tahoe area, the Desolation Wilderness area, and it was before I even took my first long distance through hike was the Pacific Crest Trail, but I was doing some hikes around the Desolation Wilderness area, Lake Tahoe area, and these two guys came up to me and they introduced themselves, and they said, "Hey, how you doing?" I said, "Great." And he said, one of them said, "My name's James," and he said, "This is my brother John." And I started laughing, and they looked at me, "Why are you laughing?" I said, "Well," I said, Jesus had 12 apostles, and one of, I said two of them were brothers. And I said their names were James and John,
Right.
Yeah,
and so immediately they said, "Are you a rev? Are you a reverend?" I said, "Well, I'm a pastor," and I said, "I'm retired. I just retired not too long ago." I said, "But yes, I'm a pastor." And so the whole time that I was around them in camp and everything, it was rev this, rev that, and so that's how I got my trail name.
Nice.
So stuck with it. That's awesome. I love that, because surely nobody besides a reverend could know James and John, right? Like nobody else that's ever heard any Bible stories could know that.
Exactly. I mean, but as soon as they said it, I just started laughing. James and John. And in fact, I also said, "Oh, sons of thunder, huh?" And really,
yeah, that's a cool name too.
That's going deep. Yeah,
it is. Okay, all right. So you just put out a video. So you're about to turn 72 years old, I believe, in May. You've had heart surgeries, but you're starting the Appalachian Trail this year, I think here in a couple of weeks. So with that video, what types of responses did you get?
About like what you said, you've had, heart surgeries and plus, another thing I had, well, 8 months after I finished the Pacific Crest Trail, I was living down in Southern California at the time, and I was doing a trail, and it's pretty flat, in a desert area, and there was this one hill, and I think it was like 500 feet of elevation, not very much, but I couldn't get up it, and I'd get up, and I would just be winded, and so I'd come back down, and I'd rest, and then I'd try it again. And I thought, well, maybe I'm having heat exhaustion or whatever, and so I tried about 3 times and couldn't get up the hill. So I came back down. I got underneath a bush to get out of the sun and everything. I called my wife, and she said, "Honey, you better call 911." And I said, "Nah, real men go." He said, "No, you better go." So I tried it one more time, and sure enough, ran out of gas.
Wait. So you ignore the wife's advice right away. Instead of resting, call 911. Let me try it just one more time.
Before 911, go up the hill again.
Yeah. Let's just see.
So then I went back down the hill. I got under the same bush, and I called 911. And so the lady that answered the phone, she said, "Well, just stay right there, sir, and we'll have someone come to get you and whatever." And so before I knew it, man, CHP helicopters flying overhead.
Wow!
And they're looking for me,
Yeah.
And she said, "Sir," she said, "they can't find you for some reason." I said, "Well, I'm underneath a bush, And they said, "Well, could you climb up underneath the bush?" And so I did. I waved at
Just go to the top of the hill.
Oh, yeah. That would have been funny if the dispatcher would have said that. Like, "Hey, can you get somewhere high and fly down?"
Right.
So they put me in there and took me to a ambulance that was there waiting for me, and they did the EKG on it, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So they determined, you need to go to the emergency room. And so they took me to the local emergency room, and it was discovered that I had a heart attack. So
oh my gosh,
8 months after I finished the Pacific Crest Trail.
That is crazy.
Wow.
So then about 3 months after that, my cardiologist told me, he said, "Look, we've got he said, I've got a colleague down in San Diego that is very familiar with your situation. I had three blockages in my right coronary artery." And he said, normally they can't do anything for that. And he said, "I'll recommend him to you." So to make a long story short, they put 3 stents right in a row on my right coronary artery.
Wow.
And, I've been fine since,
So did you get the heart attack the first, second, or third time up the hill?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't know. Well, see, that's what I asked. I asked my cardiologist. Well, the cardiologist in the emergency room. I asked him. I said, "Look, I just finished, a 2,600-mile hike." I said, "Why am I getting a heart attack on this, flat trail?" And this is what he told me. It's amazing. He said, "The body is an amazing thing." He said, your heart knew that it had, 100% blockage in it. And so what it did is it grew, and I think they call it secondary circulation. I think they call it something else too, but secondary circulation. And it actually grew, what do you call it? Veins. It grew arteries to bypass that blockage. And he said, and this is what the cardiologist said. He said, hiking the PCT saved your life.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah. Cause I would have had that same question, especially, I mean, you can, I don't know, if it's 8 months after, you can really let yourself go pretty fast in 8 months. I know from personal experience. So
yeah, but I tried not to. So I was in pretty good shape, and I hadn't gained any weight and everything. And so that's why I was wondering, why am I having a heart attack now? But basically, I probably had those blockages the whole time. Well, maybe like the last half of the PCT. I don't know. But
okay.
It was blocked.
So takeaway for everybody else out there, we always try to apply this to everybody who's listening. So if you're in your 60s, your mid to upper 60s, and maybe you have some heart problems, to solve the problem, just hike the PCT is what you're saying. That's all you gotta do.
I don't want to get anyone in trouble, but I want to know if it was maybe the food he was eating too. What food he had.
I don't know. I quit trying to figure out how it happened. All
right. So speaking of that, what would be your top 3 tips for older, newer, weaker, or scared hikers?
Oh, let me see. Scared hikers, I would just say, just get out there and to hike somewhere close to where you live. And so that if you do get real scared, you can jump in your car real quick and go home, Maybe even camp out in your backyard,
There you go.
You gotta get used to it, Another thing that helped me, and I think I saw it on a YouTube video, is before the sun goes down, kind of walk around your area where you're camping so that you'll be familiar with things. Because a lot of times when you look out of your tent and you see what looks like a bear, it's really that log or that tree that's right in front of you. So you kind of you become familiar with your area there.
That's a good one. That's really good. Yeah. Because the scared hikers are typically the ones that are going to have a hard time at night, where they're hearing the sounds out of their tent. Yeah. I mean, I've backpacked with somebody who literally got zero sleep. She was wide awake the whole night, just listening to every sound, expecting a mountain lion to fly through the tent. And so that's why, like we kind of joke about the scared hikers, but that is a thing. And she was with her husband in the tent. It wasn't like she was by herself. And so
and you think Carl snoring would keep the mountain lions away. So I always sleep better. I mean,
and it did, because no mountain lion attacks that night.
One thing that really kind of brought this home to me was when I was hiking on the PCT. I was actually in the desert area, a little bit, almost the Kennedy Meadows. And I was walking down the trail and I heard this snap. I mean, a real loud snap, not just a twig.
Ooh,
That's what I thought, And so I immediately looked down and there was a bear. And I mean, his rear end was, big. He was a big bear. But he was running away from me as fast as he could. And that told me, they're more afraid of you than you are of them.
For the most part.
I would have thought differently. If I saw a bear running away, I don't know if I'd look behind me. I would be like, well, if that bear's running, something's behind me. I got to run too.
Yeah. What else is out there?
No, that's one thing you do not want to do is run from a bear.
Okay.
or a mountain
But
lion
no,
or
but he's
whatever.
not running. He's running. He's chasing
Oh,
the
no.
bear. Really, is what he's
Yeah, I'm
doing.
chasing the bear because I think the
opposite.
bear's running from whatever's behind me. Yeah.
Yeah, which could be
Okay.
worse.
But yeah,
Could be guide
you know,
voices. Scouting the area around your camp is a really good tip for scared hikers. You put out a video that got a ton of hits, just about tips specifically for older hikers. So what's one of those that you feel like really resonated with folks?
one thing I think that really resonated, and I had a lot of older people tell me this, is I told them, I said, look, don't try to keep up with the young bucks, you know? And again, I guess, you know, because I'm older, you know, I want to hike as fast or, you know, as intense as
Right.
younger guys that are, you know, 40 years younger than me, but I just can't do it, you know?
Right.
So I tell them, I said, look, don't worry about it. I said, just, you know, hike a long time, you know. So,
we should tell, we had a couple folks who were over 70 on our last Patreon trip.
Oh yeah.
And on our last day, we were hiking out and I was trying to catch up to them and I couldn't catch up to them. So we gotta tell them that, like, you need to slow down.
Slow down. We had to run a couple times to catch up to them.
Yeah. I was like,
wow.
they finished like, what was it, like 20 minutes ahead of us. So
Yeah.
Anyway.
It was ridiculous.
yeah. Okay. But that's generally a good tip. Yeah, I think just as you get older, you just have to understand that you just have to kind of take it as it comes. Right. And
Yeah.
some days are faster, some days are slower, some days are easier, some days are harder. So I like that one.
And, you know, used to, when I was younger, man, I could just fly up a hill, you know, but nowadays I just have to just slowly, you know, take one step at a time and to get up a hill, because you're eventually going to get up there. It's just going to take you a little bit longer, you know.
Right.
And plus you have to realize, you know, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so
yeah, slow and steady. That's what we tell our cadets, our firefighting cadets, like when we hike, it's like just don't stop. That's the biggest thing. Just keep going, don't stop, set a good pace.
Stopping kills you.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, it's so much harder to start again. It's
Yes.
Right. Okay. All right. I like that one. So tip 2, tip number 3, what you got?
I used to despise trekking poles, you know. I thought they were cool, you know.
Yeah.
But I love hiking poles because, you know, they can you know, propel you. It's almost like you're walking upstairs and you're grabbing hold of the banister and pulling yourself up. That's the way that I feel with hiking poles. And then also
he despises them so much he doesn't call them trekking poles. He's like, I refuse to call them trekking poles.
Walking sticks.
Hiking poles. Yeah.
but then plus when you're you know, when you're going across a river or a stream or something like that, man, it can sure help you to, you know, steady yourself.
Oh, for sure.
From falling and things like that. And plus, you know, one of my videos, I talked about, you know, you can entertain yourself and pretend like you're, you know, beating a drum with the sticks, or you can pretend
large
like
drumsticks.
Yeah,
that's
or
right.
You can pretend like you're leading the band and stuff like that.
Yeah. Parade. For sure.
So anyway, don't despise trekking poles, really.
Okay. So if you're not going to despise them and now like you're all in on the trekking poles, what brand or what type do you use?
I first started off with Leckies. I think it was Leckies.
Yeah.
And I bent them, and so I had to get a new brand. And I love I think it's Mountain Tech.
Yep.
Okay, you know what I'm talking about? They're very inexpensive. They're on Amazon. And
Cascade Mountain Tech.
I use it. Cascade Mountain Tech. That's it.
Okay. Yeah. Now, do you have the tent? Do you have the tent that goes with them? Like, do you use the trekking pole tent or not?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. I'm using the Durston tent now. I love the Durston tent. Durston one man, the pro tent. Yeah.
Okay. The X-Mid. Yeah. So just to clarify on the trekking poles, are you using the carbon fiber?
Yes.
Okay. All right. There you go. So, and are those the ones that you brought on the Pacific Crest Trail, or that's just what you've been using since?
No, I had the Lecky.
On that one.
On the PCT. But now I'm using, I guess, probably on the Pinhoti Trail, I started using the carbon fiber. Yeah.
Okay, and they're holding up okay, it sounds like.
Oh yeah,
right.
yeah, fantastic.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay, so there you go. I think you're just kind of scratching the surface. If you want to check out all the tips he's got for older hikers, weaker hikers, whatever, we'll have a link to that in our description for his YouTube channel, because there's some good stuff on there. And speaking of some of the videos you put out, so we already mentioned that you had a hitchhiking video, like how to I forget what you called it, but it's like how to successfully hitchhike. So I've hitchhiked over the years pretty successfully, but I had one failed attempt. So I'm going to tell you about it, and I want to know what I should have done differently. Okay.
Okay.
So over the years, I've been with a buddy, I've been by myself, and I've been successful. But this time, I was in Yosemite, and it was at the end of a trip, and I was with my family. So I feel like of all the scenarios, I'm the safest guy now. I've got my wife, I've got 2 very young kids, and I didn't plan it well. We got to the end of the trail, and I left my wallet in the car, so we couldn't shuttle back to where my car was parked. So we were at a visitor center. So I wasn't like on the side of the road thumbing. I was at a visitor center. People are leaving the visitor center. They can go one way or the other. And the other way was where my car was parked. So I'm approaching people, typically people that don't have kids of their own, like in their 50s and 60s. And I'm just like, hey, I'm with my family. I just need to ride down the road a little ways to get my car. And I just kept on getting rejected and rejected and rejected. I even had one, I think it was one woman who's like, oh yeah, of course. And then her husband's like, no, don't let that guy come. And so what should I have done? What would you do in that situation?
Look like an old person and they feel sorry for you.
Okay. Get a wig.
Yeah.
No, I had problems. In fact, I was at government camp on the PCT. I guess it's in Washington or Oregon, I forget. Anyway, towards the end of the trail. And I went to an area like that where there was a lot of people and they were parked and they were going in and out of the car. And I mean, I could not get anybody to give me a ride. I mean, it was crazy, But then there was this one time that I went out, the trail intersected with the road, and I got to the road and I took my pack off and didn't even stick my thumb out. And a guy pulled over and said, hey, you need a ride?
That's the best.
Yeah.
That's the best right there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Easy.
Let me tell you something. I know it's crazy, okay? But you know yourself. People will pick you up quicker if you've got a female with you.
I had my wife with me. She was right next to me.
It just looks shady.
I don't know.
Here's Carl with like little
I had like a
kids
4-year-old and a 6-year-old. How dangerous am I?
Yeah.
It's probably more like we got to take the whole family. We can't just take like one.
No,
person.
they were sitting on the bench. And I was like, it's just me. It's just me. Yeah.
Should have had your wife out there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I don't know.
So bad luck, it sounds like.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Now, I tell you one thing. In California, it was real easy to hitchhike. When I did the Pinhoti Trail, which is Alabama, Georgia, nobody would pick me up. And, I'm from the South. And, I remember my mom and dad telling me all the time, don't pick up hitchhikers, they're axe murderers. So maybe that's what they were thinking. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I could not hardly get any rides in Alabama and Georgia. So
that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it makes me feel better that I'm not the only one, especially if somebody who puts out a video about hitchhiking has had struggles. That makes me feel better. All right. It's time for our lightning round, Rev. You've got 1 minute to answer as many questions as you can. We typically have people answer anywhere between 8 and 13 questions. And the last time I did this, I stumped somebody. So it's pretty low bar for you to be here. And we're going to start the timer once Ben asks his first question. So, Ben, are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
Okay, Rev, are you ready for this?
Yes.
Wait a second. Are you not wanting to do the lightning round? You don't sound very excited about this.
The pressure, man.
Okay.
I'm holding the pressure.
There's no pressure.
boy.
It's just for fun. Just for fun.
Just for
And
fun.
and Ben's pretty good at asking good questions. So I'm all over the place, but all right. Ben, whenever you're ready.
All right. What's your favorite alien encounter?
I take back what I just said.
This is a movie a long time ago. Something of the third kind.
Close Encounter of the Third Kind. Yep.
Close Encounter of the Third Kind. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Favorite Bible verse?
Ooh.
John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish but have everlasting life.
Verse of the day, right there.
Gospel in a nutshell.
Favorite road trip snack?
Peanut butter M&Ms.
Yes.
Best place to go backpacking?
Desolation Wilderness.
All right.
Took mine. All right. Which apostle would you like to meet?
Paul.
Boots, trail runners, or other?
Trail runners, by far.
Favorite non-essential item to bring on a trip?
Non-essential. You know, I've been bringing that flex tail automatic
Oh yeah.
blower upper.
Talk about it.
Yeah, I love that, man.
All right. And time. There you go. See, you got him in.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And I would like to apologize for Ben's terrible first question. I literally told Ben, start with like easy, kind of like so they can get in the flow. And he's like, I'm gonna throw an awkward, like really weird question first. So I apologize.
I thought it'd be good to start first because then I had other ones, but I thought let's start hard first. And then he's like, after this, everything's easy. So
yeah.
That
was terrible.
My favorite show was the X-Files, man, growing up.
Oh, was it? Okay.
And of course, that was full of aliens, you know.
Yeah.
Lots of aliens, lots of Mulder and Scully time for sure. So we should have them on. We should have the like Mulder and Scully on as the FBI agents and interview them and find out about some stuff.
Oh man, that would be awesome.
Yeah. If you have any connections, we're happy to lean on you for that.
You've got more connections than I do.
I don't know about that. All right, Bennett. Anything else he shared there that caught your?
Well, I feel like I'm looking at you, Carl, in like 30, 40 years because he brought up the flex tail. And I know you like those, and I
don't like those.
Rev, do you hike with like a 1-inch mini knife? I just gotta know. Do you like a little miniature knife?
Yeah, is that the one with the scissors, little scissors, and the?
It could be. I couldn't see.
That's all.
I have
that's all I
have this 1-inch blade knife that does the minimum job you'd want from a knife, and Ben thinks it's the funniest thing in the world. So that's what he's talking about. Like an Amazon knife.
I don't even hardly use that any
yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So after hiking for thousands of miles, in the Pacific, how many times do you wish you had a pretty big blade? No, see, told you.
You don't really need it. Well, even I have gotten to where I used to, buy a block of cheese, and I would cut it with my little 1-inch knife, and but now I just.
That's how our buddy Rocky does it. Big block, like a power bar.
Yeah.
And so I don't even hardly use my knife anymore.
Okay. See
that? Yeah.
I rest my case. All right. So what can we look forward to coming up on your YouTube channel? We know that you're going to be out on the trail here soon, but are videos still coming out? Updates or what's happening here?
But 1 week from this coming Tuesday, I'm going to be taking off to Atlanta, and then I've got somebody picking me up from Atlanta and taking me to the trailhead there. So, and I'm going to be putting out videos. I'm going to try every week to put out a video. All the way to Katahdin.
Okay.
But I want to put out one more video before I leave about food. Hikers stress so much about food, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
I haven't. I don't know. This will probably cause a big rift in the hiker community. But I
love it. We like controversy.
That's it.
I have not carried a stove or a pot or anything probably in about 3 or 4 years, man.
Oh, are you cold?
no.
Are you a cold soaker? You cold soak, don't you?
No, I even go further than that. I
Oh, no.
I do what's called no cook.
You eat the
Okay.
bugs. You eat the
No.
bugs.
Yeah.
No, I mean, there's so many things. Beef sticks, cheese sticks. You know, and just anything that that you don't have to cook.
Okay.
You know, and the crazy thing about it is when you get to camp, you know, you got all these people that are, you know, firing the stove up and warming their water and putting it in the uh, mountain house or whatever, you know, and then they have to wait for it to cool off. And by the time I've eaten my beef sticks and my sausage and stuff like that, man, I'm ready to go to bed, you know, and they're not even eating yet.
Oh
Right.
my gosh.
Plus, they have to clean their pot up and stuff like that. I said, food on that. You know?
Yeah. Have you ever been hanging out with those folks and they're firing up their stove and they're eating their dinner and you're sitting there? Have you ever said to them, "Are you going to eat all that? Can I have the rest? Whatever you don't have, can I have?"
No, I've never had to beg food, man.
Okay.
They probably offer it to him because he's just sitting there eating his like beef stick, looking at him all sad, like, you know, whimpering, and
Yeah.
they're like, "All right,
Yeah.
I'll share some with you." Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I don't
Now,
think.
when I get into a trail town, man, I pig out, you know.
Okay.
But,
Gotcha.
you know, trail
Yeah, I
food
don't.
is just fuel. That's all it is.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
One thing I forgot to ask you before we close out here is, so, I mean, you're known as the Hiking Rev. And so people are aware that, you know, or at least if they're not aware, they're going to be aware that you're a pastor. Are you sharing the gospel when you're out on the trail? Are you having any like Bible studies around camp, or what's that part of the story?
Well, the first, when I first started telling people, they'll say, you know, what's your trail name? And I'll go Rev. And they think that oh, you mean you go fast, you know, like Rev.
Yeah.
No, that's not the type of Rev, you know. And then they
Right.
think, they go, oh, are you a reverend, you know? And then I'll say, yeah. And then immediately, you know, they say, oh, man, I'm sorry I said that bad word, you know, and stuff. Hey, don't worry about it, you know.
Yeah.
But I only share the gospel if someone wants to know. I don't push my religion. In fact, whenever somebody, you know, tries to get into, you know, a lot of times they call it discussions, but really all it is arguments. I tell them, I say, look, there's two things that I don't talk about on trail, and that's politics and religion, you know. Now, I say, now, if you have a question, I say, I'll be glad to answer it. And if you don't like it, it's up to you, you know. But
Interesting.
But I'm not gonna argue. You know, I would rather talk about things that unite us, like backpacking and the trail and stuff like that, than things that divide us. You know.
Okay. Right.
Gotcha.
But I have had people, you know, talk to me while I'm hiking. They'll ask me questions, and I can sense, you know, the Holy Spirit will tell you, you know, hey, that person really wants to know. And I can sense that they're wanting to know, and so I'll answer their questions, you know, and get into things.
Gotcha.
That's really good.
We don't do a Bible study every backpacking trip, but we do them pretty frequently, and not everybody that goes with us is a churchgoer. And so we just put it out there, like, you are invited to attend, but you're not, of course, required to or forced to attend. And more often than not, they'll show up and they might have some questions, or they might just sit there and listen, and that's fine. But we typically try to work in a Bible study typically once a trip, but it hasn't always worked out that way. That's how we do it.
On a long distance through hike like I do, I don't usually hike with somebody else. I'm usually by myself, probably about 90% of the time. And so I've got earphones and I'm listening to the Bible on, you know, on my phone. And plus, man, you know, you get up at 4:00 in the morning and you're on the trail at 5 and you're watching the sun come up and you're praying, and man, it's just awesome. It's just awesome. You know?
Praying and the sun coming up, I totally agree, is awesome. If you just said waking up at 4 a.m, that's not awesome. Like I'd never want to do that.
No,
Well, if you go to
he
bed
doesn't.
at
He doesn't.
if you go to bed at 8 o'clock, that's 8 hours.
Oh,
So.
Yeah. Well, hey, Hiking Rev, it's been an honor to have you on the show, and
Thanks, guys.
we'll keep track of your progress on the Appalachian Trail. Sounds like we can keep track on your
Sure.
YouTube channel as you go. We'll have links to that in the show description. And yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show.
All righty. Thanks, guys.
The trail is calling your name. Are you ready? Are you really ready? Our good friend Rowan from Summit Strength can get you trail ready. Rowan uses rock solid evidence to design a specialized training program just for you. There are plenty of cookie cutter programs out there that will get you only halfway up the mountain. Make it to your adventure summit with Summit Strength. The link to your success is always in our episode description, but you can check out all the information you need at summitstrength.com.au/online. It's time to be strong and pain-free for your next adventure. Okay, takeaways, my friend, what you got?
Well, let's talk about the 911 call that he had. I think we talked about it a lot on the podcast, interview, but
right.
How ridiculous. Like, you call your wife and he goes, well, I'm going to try one more time. And in my mind, like, how does he not stop halfway up the hill and then try again? Like, I didn't ask that. That's one thing I should have, is like, how come you couldn't stop and just keep going? Like, why didn't you rest at the top?
Right. Yeah, I don't get that. I don't know. Maybe it was exposed and he didn't want to be resting the sun. That would have been a good question to ask. Yeah. People do that. They want to just kind of do it in one shot. Like, I can make this hill. Oh, no, I can't. I'm going to try again. I'm going to try again. I'm going to try again. And obviously that didn't work out so well for him. But yeah, that was interesting, I thought, for sure. Yeah. But his sort of stubbornness to not call 911, he's not alone in that. Like, I could see myself being that guy for sure.
I mean, as a first responder, we're in our community, we get that all the time where, it's almost too late when people call because they're just like stubborn. Like, they don't want to admit they're having some pain or heart attack or something. And, I mean, I'm probably that way too, where it's like, yeah, this pain's been here for, 2 to 3 weeks. I think I'm okay.
Just tough it out.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Exactly.
So that was an interesting takeaway for sure. You kept on making this comment about like, he's the older version of you, Carl. And that hill story, like, for sure. But some of the other stuff he was saying, I mean, like he mentioned, I'm trying to think of something he mentioned. Just he didn't want to use a stove. I mean, that's not me. Like, I want to go ultra light, but I'm bringing a stove. Come on.
Well, no, but this in 30 years, I think you won't bring a stove because you can, borrow my food and you like your beef sticks. And so I think
I bring a stove. I eat food that I like, and I still get jealous about some of the other food I see around camp. So if I didn't have a stove, I could only imagine I'd be like, where's the next town? Kind of a thing, So
just grumpy.
Yeah. I'm already grumpy about it. It hasn't even happened yet.
He had a 1-inch knife. He said he used to have the 1-inch knife and he eventually got rid of it. So that's another prediction that in like 30 years, you're going to get rid of your knives and you're just going to start eating, bricks of cheese and, sides of beef.
I won't ever do that. I mean, you still break off a piece of a, like a block of cheese. You don't have to have a knife, right? Yeah.
You don't have to.
I don't know. There's things I've thrown around. We'll get to this later, but there's like pretty, I would say, controversial ideas I've thrown around. Like, do I really need to bring this? Can I leave this at home to lighten my load? And I'm not talking about luxury items. I'm talking about things that people typically have in their pack. And a knife is one of them. Although with my 1-inch knife, I don't think I'm shaving a whole lot of weight. But especially if you're going in a group, somebody else has one of those things, right?
Right, for sure. Yeah. And did you like that he brought the flex tail? That surprised me. That was his luxury item.
I think you think of me as liking that as a device. I was willing to try that device out last year. That doesn't mean I like it. I tried it out. I gave it a go. It was fine, but it's just like another piece of gear that you got to charge and worry about and set up before the trip. So I'm not bringing it anymore.
Yeah. Okay. I just thought in 30 years, you probably would bring it because you're like, I don't want to spend time blowing up my own mattress. I want to get to camp, eat my beef stick, and just relax the rest of the night.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, that's probably what you do.
I don't think you are very optimistic about 30 years from now. Like, technology is going so stinking fast. In 30 years, dude, the pads will have built-in pumps. Like, you won't have to bring it as a separate item. You'll press a button. It'll be super ultralight because the batteries will be, like nothing. And it'll just inflate on its own, right?
Yeah, and you're gonna have that exoskeleton that will walk for you and hike for you. So it'll be
not
perfect.
doing that. That's That's crazy. So, all right. Hey, it was a pleasure and honor. Hiking Rev was one of our favorite new guests we've had on in a while.
For sure.
So that was a lot of fun, and we'll be tracking with him on the Appalachian Trail, seeing how he's doing. Hopefully, we'll have him on at the end of the season and see how his journey went, how his adventure went, and hear some more stories because that was some good stuff.
Yeah, it was awesome. Good guy.
Awesome. All right, I got some tidbits for you, buddy. You ready?
All right. Yeah, let's hear them.
Okay, I got a review. I'm kind of sneaking a review into this episode. I don't think it relates to anything we talked about, but that's okay because I just got this. I'm excited about it. You can see the tags are still on right here.
Yeah. He's holding up a backpack.
It's a backpack.
Yeah.
It is a Deuter Air Contact Pro. All right. So I got the beefier version. I got the 75 plus 10, which I realize it's not an ultralight pack. It's honestly best for if you're going with, like full luxury style groups, you're bringing your family. That's kind of what this pack's for. And because I go backpacking with my family, with multiple families, like this is a solution. So it's a full service pack that is best for people who love like organization. Maybe you're like a spreadsheets person. Ben, I don't think you are, but there's a lot of those folks out there who have spreadsheets of gear and things. If you like to be organized like that, this is your pack. It's got all sorts of pockets and bells and whistles to kind of fit things in, especially if you're packing for others, like for your family. And the brain comes off. You can make that a day pack. It's got a tailored fit with pivoting shoulder straps, and it's got the wrapping hip fins that are adjustable. It's got the wrapping hip fins and adjustable torso length. So this is kind of a full service, full comfort pack. What'd you say?
I said, is it comfortable?
It's comfortable. I mean, I literally just got it, so I haven't brought it out on the trail yet. I'm doing a preview. This is not like a review. I guess. This is like a preview of the pack. But for the types of trips you're going, maybe not like you're not hammering the miles. You're doing more like the 8-mile days or less. And you're, like I said, you're packing for others, or you just pack a lot. You just pack a lot of stuff and want something comfortable. This is your pack right here. So you're paying for it in other ways, of course. Like you pay for comfort with packs, as we've learned. And so it comes in empty at 6 pounds, which is definitely on the heavier side. And it is premium quality. Like this thing will probably last you decades. So it comes in at $360. And so you're definitely paying for the Deuter comfort and the Deuter quality. But if you're somebody who has to pack a lot of weight and is packing for others, I think this is a good option. So
are you're bringing it? I think I'm excited. It sounds like you're going to pack for like 2 to 3 more people anytime you go backpacking now. So I'm excited. I can pack less. Everyone else can pack less.
I don't know that you have a leg to stand on. Like you literally couldn't fit everything in your pack the last time that we went. So this might be a pack for you. Should I save this for you?
Yeah, it looks really comfortable. So if you're listening on the podcast and not YouTube, it definitely has the comfort side of it. I'm excited to see it and see what you think of it when you use it on the trail, because it looks like it kind of molds to your back.
It does, yeah. Yeah, I mean, they make great suspension. I've used Deuter stuff before and love it. You can see, for those that are on YouTube, you can kind of see how it comes off as like a day pack. That's how the brain comes off. Day pack, and then over here you got the full size pack right there.
So you could use a day pack as your regular ultralight pack.
You could. Yeah, people will use this for travel as well, but I mean, we're talking backpacking, so that's kind of.
No, it looks sweet. It looks very.
Thanks for letting me talk about it. Yeah, I'm excited. That's kind of latest pack. I'm excited to try out, I guess. All right, other tidbits I've got is, let's see, we got a reaction from last week's episode. I had a trivia question about which of the apps, I asked this like for Chris Hazard, which of the apps was not like a navigation app, and I made up an app called Mappy. I just made it up. Yeah. And so I was like, that was the one that wasn't a real navigation app. And then Aaron emails me and says, by the way, it's actually a mapping app in the Czech Republic. Mappy. So I was wrong.
Yeah, because we go there all the time. And
yeah. Do you? You should.
No.
I bet it's nice there. I've never been to the Czech Republic.
But
his is spelled like M-A-P-Y, and my made-up one was M-A-P-P-Y. I don't know if that makes a difference, but I guess I was technically wrong. So I owe Chris Hazard an apology, which I probably won't give him if I'm being honest.
Did he choose that one? Was that the one he chose? Did he know?
No, he got that question wrong, but I guess technically it was a bad question if there's no right answer, according to Aaron, who I don't know if he lives in the Czech Republic or if he just like looked it up. I looked up all the apps. I like did an app search and there's a million of them that have navigation and that didn't come up. So I don't know.
As somebody that constantly gets emails and reviews and comments on YouTube about trivia, it doesn't surprise me one bit. Like our fans and listeners, they will constantly tell us what we say wrong. So they probably just looked it up, and I doubt they knew that it was from the Czech Republic, but maybe they did.
Yeah, maybe. I feel like though, if they were really paying attention, if everybody's really paying attention out there, you could probably find things every single episode, and we don't get that feedback every single episode. So it's kind of like a picking and choosing. You're probably right. It's probably about trivia, really, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
They felt bad.
All right. Last thing. I'm a little late in getting this out, but typically I put out that if you were interested in joining Strava, not joining the app, but like following me on Strava, I'll follow you back. Ben's on Strava. Ben will follow you back. I've started my training for my big summer trip, and I don't post all my training sessions, but I'll post like 2 to 3 a week, I guess. And every training session, I try to pray for one person that is following me, whether I know them, have met them, know nothing about them. And Ben H. from Pennsylvania, who's also part of the B&B Bible study, he formed a Strava group, so we'll figure out how to get everybody into that group. I'm not super knowledgeable about that, but anyway, I'll have links in the show description if you're interested in joining. But basically, on Strava, it's just under my name, Carl Mandrioli. Ben, what are you called on Strava?
I think Ben McAuliffe. There's probably some numbers. I don't know. I go on once a month and post. I don't post all my activity. I work out every day too, Carl, just like you, but I only post like once a month. So,
okay.
And if you're listening,
Rocky, if you want to follow Rocky, Rocky goes by Red River, 2 words, and he posts everything. He's like, walk to the mailbox, post. He's like sitting in chair for an hour, post. Not really, I'm exaggerating, but he posts a lot of stuff, and he's just more enthusiastic about it than I am. I like it. I'm just not obsessed with it. So anyway, if you're interested, great. If not, no worries. You got anything else?
No, I don't. But just remember, when you're hiking, you're getting older, but continue to hike.
Wait, what? Is that like a Ben proverb? That's so bad.
What
that is so bad.
Old, just
is that all you got?
Yeah, that's all I got. Okay, you close this out. All right, Carl, you got anything else?
I don't have anything else, anybody. So have a good week and God bless. That's my closeout.